Hey guys, I'm Jax, a non-gamer boy, and this is my non-gamer review of Five Nights at Freddy's, the new film based off the video game of the same name. So, I've never played any single second of this video game, I've never even heard of the video game up until the movie's trailer was released, and the only real reason that I knew it was a video game at all was because I saw that clip of MatPat being like real sad because of something to do with the trailer, and something because he does videos on one of his channels about it. So that's like all I knew. So then I watched the trailer and I'm like, what is this? I've heard people love this game, but what is it? And it turns out it's just like a slasher movie, but instead of like a Freddy and or a Jason situation, they're giant animatronic animals, which I suppose can be terrifying, and like they look great, and they look great in the movie, but like not very scary to me. The trailer did nothing for me. But hey, I had nothing to do on a lazy Saturday morning, so I went, let's celebrate the spookiest time of the year and go see Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know how this happened, but this might be one of the most surprising cinema experiences I may have ever had. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying surprising because it's surprisingly good at being like a horror slasher film. I am saying it is surprising because it is not really a slasher film whatsoever. I would really describe it as a family drama about parenthood and grief and moving on from the past. And I don't know if that's all this lore from 100 games or it's just like the first game or what's going on, but I found it so surprising, not because it was like stabbing and slashing and doing all these crazy slasher things, because it does that for like 10 minutes and all of that stuff is fine to derivative to boring to oh, that's pretty good. I wish this wasn't PG, bloodless. But then there's like this family drama, and I was like, it's making me sad and feel things and think about life. What is going on? How did the film that is pretty much just a live action version of Itchy and Scratchy when they're robotic animal monster things and then they use flashlights to take them out from The Simpsons, but live action, how is this film like making me actually feel like an emotion? Not a like, oh my god, they stabbed that guy in the face real good. Like, I expected that. We didn't get that whatsoever, but we got, I'm sad about grief and trauma, and this is such a weird film. I kind of loved it. I was surprised by it. And the rest of the cinema, which were entirely 12 to 14 year olds, definitely didn't make me feel uncomfortable and out of place as a young-ish man, but definitely the oldest by double. I don't think they all liked the movie, except for this one kid. This one kid right at the end of the movie just stood up and clapped. And I could just see his friends being like, oh, he does this every time. This may be the least scary horror film I've ever seen. And I'm fine with horror films to be kind of like a fun horror film that's more, I don't know, Stranger Things than a Hereditary. Not everything has to be Hereditary where it's truly, truly scary and it's going to haunt your dreams for months on end. Sometimes you just want to have fun with the kind of backdrop of a horror setting. More of a Goosebumps situation where it's a bit of a spook and a scare, but you're having fun with it. And this really feels like it's attempting to do that, but with these like giant animatronic robot monster killing machines, there are kills, and they are so bloodless and so PG and so like not shown. You get little glimpses and you're like, okay, this is cool, we're setting it up. And then we never really get the payoffs. There are so many moments where I'm just like, oh, we're doing this type of shot. Okay, I've only seen this a million times before. And every single moment, every single scene feels so oddly derivative and kind of lazy and kind of cheap, where it was like, it almost felt like it was a parody where they're like, imagine this shot in a horror film. And you're like, yeah, like in every horror film I've ever seen. They're like, but what if it was a giant animatronic robot? And it's like, okay, but you're not trying to be funny. It's trying to be scary, right? And they're like, yeah, I mean, yes. I don't know. It can never commit to one where it's like, oh, we're having a bit of fun with this. Look how silly these robots are. Because they do look genuinely quite scary and terrifying. But then the way they're staged and framed just never really kind of elicit any actual fear. and they're in such a small part of this film. I cannot stress how this film is not a slasher horror film at all. Really, calling it a horror film feels disingenuous in a way. I wouldn't be surprised if some people are left like very disappointed by this, just because it's so about this family drama dynamic. But I also have to imagine, with no knowledge, I have to imagine that all of that lore and mythology and the way it ties into Freddy's and the pizzeria place and all the robots and all that stuff is big mythology stuff from the games. So I don't know if gamers are like, oh no, this is what it's all about. It's a weird mixed bag of a film. I definitely think it's worth seeing unless you just want to see a 90-minute robot slasher monster movie. Then wait to see this at home, because it will disappoint you beyond belief. Everyone in it is good. The acting is all good. There's a little girl, and she does pretty good job for a little girl. Josh Hutcherson is in it, and despite the fact there was a moment where I thought they were implying he's a dad to like a 12-year-old, and I had this crisis of life and age, and just realizing that I am his age, and I don't think that works. How old is he? But then it was revealed, actually, brother, sister, just guardian parent. And that was a weight off my shoulders. And oh my God, this movie made me so scared at a certain point where I'm like, Josh Hutcherson is not dad age yet, Hollywood. It's not yet. Like, it's fun to look at because the animatronic monster creatures, like the big teddy bears and the fox and other animals, look great. It looks amazing. It always looks real. Whatever CGI like kind of tweaks they've done onto these big puppets they've made looks spectacular. Really, really, really good. Like, shockingly good. They don't do much though. They're kind of just like stand about, and like they look so good because there's never a moment where you're like, wow, how did they even get the animatronic to do that crazy thing it did? It's very slow, which I think makes them feel more real. But for me, I was kind of waiting for that moment at like the back half and like the third act for them to like do a big thing and me to go like, nice, they did a big thing. But they don't. They're very stationary for a lot of it. And I don't know, maybe that's just like a reference to the games where they don't do anything. But I found it at a certain point right towards the end like a bit disappointing. It's so odd. I don't know if it's good because I like the family drama stuff, because I was like, oh, emotions, my heart, it still works, thank God. But then again, it's like, it's meant to be like a horror film about like giant animatronic robots, and I don't know, I feel like there's elements and ways they could have done this that would have been better. I definitely think this should have been MA. It's the most PG thing you'll ever see in your life. The lighting and the direction and the way it's shot, it's all pretty good. It's just exactly what you'd expect a movie like this to look like, which is good enough, but it's nothing above that. Overall, I'd give this film a big old surprise. What? What? Sorry, what? Out of 10. Because I don't know if it was a good surprise or a bad surprise, but I was surprised. It's such a weird film.